Okay, here we go. So, this expression is I couldn't get a word in edgewise. I couldn't get a word in edgewise. So, let's say, for example, um, I'm going to create this scenario, right? I used to work for a construction company. And let's say we're out on the crew and three guys are talking about this big meeting that we're going to have with the boss and the owner of the company and another supervisor. And we don't really have that much power in the company. We're fairly new, let's say. And so we've got this problem of broken tools of this construction company. So we talk about this problem of having all these broken tools, and we need to get those things replaced, right? So let's say, for example, I'm the foreman of our little crew, but I don't have that much power in in the company because let's say I'm a new foreman, and so I and these other two guys that are in the truck, they're my laborers, let's say. Okay, so we're talking about these broken tools, and they say to me, "Why don't you say something in the meeting? You need to say something in the meeting." I go, "I'm going to. I'm definitely going to because this is ridiculous." So so I go into the meeting, and the owner of the company is kind of the director of how the meeting is going, and then the superintendent makes his comment, and everybody's quiet when he says what he wants to say because they don't want to irritate him, right? So, and the topic becomes about health insurance, in the company, and some of the higher up foremans and the the owner of the company and the superintendent, they start talking about, well, we should not have this health insurance because it's too expensive, or the company should pay for part of the health insurance, and they start having this big discussion. Okay, and so I want to bring up the topic of the broken tools, but everybody's going back and forth about this health insurance. And then the meeting is finished. You know, the boss says, the owner of the company says, "I got to go, right? This meeting's over. We'll talk about this more later." So I go back out the next day. I'm talking to my laborers, and they say, "Well, did you say something about these broken tools?" And I say, "Well, no, because the owner of the company started talking about health insurance, and then the higher up foreman started to argue about how much money that they were going to pay, and I couldn't get a word in edgewise." So I couldn't get a word in edgewise means people, like maybe more powerful people, but it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be, but people are talking so fast and they're arguing, and you don't have a chance to say anything because it's this person's talking, and you want to be kind of polite, right? So these are some words. They're written down on a piece of paper, right? So see how this is? Edgewise. This is edgewise. This is the edge of the paper. This is edgewise. And that's a very thin piece of paper. Should be easy to put this in a lot of places. You could put this in the crack of a door, right? If you got the crack of a door, you could put this in here. You could put this into a lot of places. You could slide this under your drink or whatever. It's very thin and easy to get in a lot of places, right? But if you got this thin thing, right, and you can't, and there's a discussion, this is a word written on a piece of paper. This guy's talking, and this guy's talking, and you're trying to be a little bit polite, and you want to say something about the broken tools, but you can't get the word in edgewise, right? It's the conversation so tight that you can't even get a word in edgewise, right? So that's how that expression goes, right? So I'm telling these guys, they say, "Oh, I thought you said you were going to say something about the broken tools," and you say, "Well, I don't know. The owner was talking, the manager was talking to these, and together we start talking about insurance, and I couldn't get a word in edgewise, right?" Okay, here's a couple of examples. Now, what made me think of this expression is that I've been watching a lot of these congressional hearings, right? The Congress is calling people, the Congress of the United States, they're calling people in to talk about different kinds of fraud that is happening. Like they're calling people from Twitter and Facebook in and saying, "Hey, what's going on? Why are you censoring people?" And they got the guy from the border near Mexico because they're calling him in and saying, "Why aren't you doing your job? There's too many illegal immigrants coming." And what happens is these Congress people, they want to tell a story, right? They want to tell their story. And so they have this habit of interrupting people. When the people try to explain themselves, they don't let them explain themselves, and they can't get a word in edgewise. Let me show you an example. Is this going to work? Okay. All right. Okay. So I got to think as I'm going here. Is this actually, can you see this? Yeah, I guess you can. Okay. So this guy, hang on, this is not what I want. Okay, now watch this little situation here. This guy's a congressman. I think he might be a senator. I can't remember. I think he's a congressman. And they're having a hearing of this Mayorkas, who's one of the guys that's in charge of the border, right? Migrant. Okay. We're talking about why, what's going on? What are you doing here?
Expulsions under Title 42, not the criminals. How many of those people have you deported?
So, Congressman, a few points. Number one,
Just how many of the people? I just
See, he wouldn't let him speak.
want to know how many. It's just a number.
Congressman, we are dealing with a completely broken immigration
I get it.
system.
No, Mr. Secretary, I'm not going to let you burn my 5 minutes. Do you know the answer? Do you know the number of people out of that 2 million that you've removed that aren't criminals?
I do know that we have removed more aggravated felons.
Right, I'm not asking about them. I've caveated that away.
Okay, do you see how this is? So, Mayorkas, I'm not taking anybody's side here. I'm not taking anybody's side, but the guy that he's asking, he can't really get a word in edgewise to explain himself because he's trying to basically make this guy look like he doesn't know what he's doing.
Here's what I'm sort of getting and what your non-responsiveness is demonstrating. The Mayorkas doctrine is this. If you show up at the board, sort of getting and I'm not asking about them. I've caveated that.
So this guy here is trying to make the other guy look stupid. All right. So anyway, so let's check this out. This is not a very good example, but I just want to show you that it exists. Couldn't get a word in edgewise.
The audience couldn't get a word in edgewise.
This the whole time. Greg and I couldn't get in a word in edgewise. We were
Okay, so next time, so let's say, for example, the next time you're at a meeting or something, and, somebody asks you, did you say something? Or your wife says, did you say something in the meeting? And you say, no, I couldn't get a word in edgewise, unfortunately, right? And so it could be with a lot of things where people are talking and you just don't have a chance to talk, okay? And it doesn't have to be, You don't have to say, I couldn't get a word in edgewise. It could be, she couldn't get a word in edgewise, or he couldn't get a word in edgewise. Okay, so it doesn't have to be talking about yourself. Okay, so there you go. Couldn't get a word in edgewise. Okay, I will talk to you on the next idiom.